Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm looking for a thumbs up from someone, anyone. Thank you. So welcome to this IOD Central London event, To Be Innovative Working From Home, the first Central London branch event of 2021. So welcome again, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We thought it was really important to start the year off with something that's really crucial to everyone's business and organisation at this time. Working from home has become so essential to keeping our organisations flowing. And we are privileged and honoured to be joined by two very special guests. So with a bit of a story as well. So I used to work for Dorchester Collection, and during my time there, when we come up with being innovative and working from home as the theme, of course, my first instinct was Anna Brandt, a global guest experience and innovation lead for Dorchester Collection. So we'll meet her very shortly. And our older guest is Martin Lindstrom, world-renowned author who has also worked really closely with Anna at Dorchester Collection. So it's a really nice rounding of the circle to come back together again, and we're really pleased to have you both with us, so thank you. I'm joined this evening by a number of members of the Central London Branch Committee. So helping me through the evening, we've got Rina Dayal, our Vice Chair and Acting Chair for the Central London Branch. David Stringer-Lamar is Chair of the London Region, so he's going to be talking to us a little bit later on as well. Jeremy Warlow is our Head of Hospitality for the branch for 116 Pall Mall, and we will have a number of other guests speaking as we go through the evening. So just back onto the agenda, we'll have a look at what's coming up this evening. So very shortly, Rina will take us through the panel discussion with our two very special guests. And then later on after that, we will just give you a bit of background to the London region, some of the benefits for our new members in particular, and possibly a reminder for some of our longer term members to the branch and to the region and to the IOD. We'll have a Q&A session at 6:45 before we come to a close, just before 7 p.m, where members are welcome to join us for some networking. So we hope you can stay with us throughout the evening and contribute. There are chat options on the webinar. If you're joining us through LinkedIn as well, please feel free to ask your questions. If you want to connect with other members, do just make sure you connect on LinkedIn, make yourselves known, and we'll get through to you as soon as we can. So just a heads up on the next slide. A bit of background very briefly and a little bit more heads up. So this is part of the IOD London Business Webinar Series. So Jeremy is going to take us through a little bit more about all the options we have for IOD London and Central London. So we will get through, we have a range of webinars that have been really popular through all of 2020, and we will continue those through 2021. We have a range of leadership and networking opportunities, as we will see this evening. All to bring you value for your membership. So on to our very special guests. So on the next slide, I will hand over to Rina. So there you go, here's who you're going to be seeing. So Martin and Anna, and Rina, I will hand over to you.
Thank you, Keith. That was fantastic. Great start for today's webinar. Welcome, everyone. Absolutely delighted to have people from all around the world joining us. Great to see the numbers. You've crossed 130, and that's absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure there are going to be more who are going to be joining us this evening. My name is Rina Dayal. I'm the acting chair to IOD's Large Sprout Central London, and absolutely delighted to be here with two very special guests. And we're going to be talking about a topic which has touched all our lives in the last 1 year. But how can we be innovative while we are working from the home space? So I have with me today Anna Brandt and Martin Lindstorm, and a lovely story that Keith has shared with us about how we have all connected, which just reminds us the power of having great conversations and great relationships and to stay connected. And that's part of the IOD charm that we'll be telling you a little bit more in a little while. But before that, Anna Brandt and Martin Lindstrom. So Anna Brandt's LinkedIn profile, this is what it says, and I love it. Research and experts designer at Dorchester Collection, that's her role. But she's also the author for many HBR articles and Forbes, alumni to the Ritz-Carlton and Walt Disney World. Ladies and gentlemen, she is a leading global luxury brand strategist, customer centricity expert, market research, and a doctoral candidate. And I'll be going a bit more about what she's doing as a doctoral candidate on that. Welcome, Anna. Absolutely delighted to have you here with us today. Hi.
Thank you, Rena. Love being here. Thank you so much for having us.
Fantastic. And I have got with me, of course, Martin Lindstrom. Absolutely delighted to have him here. He's been rated as one of the best, topmost global management thinkers. And again, I love his succinct LinkedIn profile, which talks about him being best-selling author, which he is, of many books, brand and culture transformation expert. And it's interesting because the two are so intertwined with each other. And I love the statement that he says. He says, I help high-performing companies save money and unlock growth through simple changes. In fact, today we are celebrating the launch of his new book, Ministry of Common Sense, which I have absolutely enjoyed reading. Martin, welcome.
Thank you so much, Rena. And listen, Keith, I just have to double check one thing with you. You said we have Anna on board, which is our young guest. And then you said we have our older guest. That's not nice of you saying that. Are you sure you didn't mean the Beauty and the Beast instead?
I do apologize. Did I mix up my words? I do apologize. I should know better.
Fantastic.
I think it was when he said older, he meant me. Clearly, he meant me. Martin, rest assured on that one.
Can I just say, this is how it has been planning with these two extremely generous guests. They have been absolutely amazing throughout this experience. So thank you again for joining.
Thank you, Keith. And I tell you, that accent is so amazing. I mean, as soon as a British person is talking to me, I feel a sense of authority. I feel it's trustworthy. I feel I can relax and sit down and just, and then I think about Brexit and then everything. But anyway, it's the accent doing the trick, I think. Anna, what are you thinking?
So is that a hint that if I speak an American accent, I'm not going to sound that smart?
Well, I think
I'm so sorry.
You have an inauguration going on today. That's sort of changing the image of the world for a moment, right?
Indeed.
A historical moment, as I was saying, 2001, 2021.
Yeah.
Indeed, a great day indeed. Okay, so let's dive into today's conversation with that absolutely brilliant warm-up, which is already giving you a sense of the fantastic conversation that we're going to be having. Anna, let me begin with you. Now, 2020 has taught us all and taught us one thing, which is how to work from home. And we think we have aced it, but there's lots that we have learned. And I'd love to be able to invite you, especially as an experienced design expert. You've got insights that can help us really think about how do we think about working from home as individuals and businesses. What can you share with us today?
Well, thank you. That's a pretty profound question. So I think that the pandemic really accelerated the point of midlife crisis for nearly everyone, at least in our professional careers. You know, those that were too young to experience this before just did, and those who have already experienced this perhaps had to go through it once again. And I think what was different about this midlife crisis on a professional level, that it wasn't only a personal journey, it was a journey of that collective disequilibrium. We were all disoriented at the same time. And anyone without exception experienced emotional transition. Yeah, we had to seek to question our choices in life. We had to reevaluate how we spend our time and what do we do moving forward. And as Martin taught me, Chinese say that crises represent both an opportunity and a danger. And I think a dangerous part is letting that midlife crisis in our professional life result in a depression. Yet an opportunity is, how does it lead to reinvention? So I have two pieces of advice. My first one is seek to reinvent, not only pivot. And I use the word reinvention on purpose and truly cautiously steer away from overused and beloved word pivot. And I'm sure Martin's next book is going to be something about that because he's always ahead of it. And I'm
taking notes, and whatever advice you can give me, I'm on to it, right?
Yeah, I think the word pivot, if I hear it one more time, really not into it. And let me tell you why. Reinvention is personal. I think it's an action through which something is changed so much that it appears almost new. Reinvention gives people hope that They don't have to feel that the best days are behind them. And I think a lot of us maybe thought of that way, is my best days and my highlight of the career, is that behind me or can it be ahead of me? I think reinvention gives you permission to think differently, reimagine your purpose without the baggage of thinking about your past. Think what makes you happy, think about how do you organize your life around what's important to you. Pivoting is a bit more collective. It's a movement in different or new direction, and you still are required to keep contact with the past. And pivoting can result potentially in temporary change, not necessarily a reinvention. So it could be deceiving, like a Band-Aid. My personal reinvention started, and possibly like many of you, by choosing what is it that I want to stop doing versus what is that I want to start doing. I made some few changes. I stopped watching news. I minimized my presence on social media. I stopped participating in conversations that lead nowhere concerning issues that are way beyond my control. You know, for example, today I completely refused to participate in any conversations about vaccines and offer my amateur, non-evidence opinion. It really doesn't matter to what I think. So this is easier said than done because I think people will drag you down and you have to create some clear boundaries. As a result of figuring out what is it I don't want to do, my worldview introduced me to the world of opportunities, and more importantly, gave my brain that cognitive space to create versus dwell. And I think that's the first start. And for me, I used it to learn. I absolutely love to learn. I'm extremely curious. So I took classes, I wrote up my dissertation, and truly focused on expanding my social and cultural capital. My second advice is more on a business side, and I would say seek to reimagine, not only to improve. In Dorchester Collection, we have been on a journey to put the guest in the heart of everything we do over the past few years. And I know that I have some of panelists or some of the audience. Genio is on it. I know Beth is on it, and many, many other supporters. So hello, thank you so much for being here. We have been on this fantastic journey and had such great momentum, and all of a sudden, you know, hotels got closed. So of course, what we planned before the pandemic certainly would have not worked after or during. So the question we imposed, and I imposed to myself, is how do we place the guest in the center of our universe while most of our hotels are closed? Now that's a reinvention, not improvement, yeah? So by reframing that question, we were able to find different ways to reimagine the solutions. We invited our guests to be guest speakers at our leadership Zoom calls. Some of our staff members decided to send postcards and letters to guests. We engaged with them on the phone conversation. So we were really pushing ways in which we reimagine placing the guests in our center of our universe without having that physical business to deal with. So I think that simple act to reimagine both our guests and our employees hope that once this is all behind us, we will all be richer for that meaningful collective experience. So in conclusion, I believe that, if you're working from home as a leader, you have, first of all, a duty to personally reinvent yourself before you can offer inspiration to others. Only true, authentic, and sincere commitment to your personal change can result in reimagining your business and inspiring others.
Amazing. I love that.
And I just want to add to what Anna is saying so beautifully. It's very funny. And you and I haven't talked about this before, but what you're saying is not to create a to-do list, but create an un-to-do list, right? And it's very funny because one of the things I've worked a lot with and written about in my new book is actually you should go through a process of defragmenting your life. Just like you have a computer which is fragmenting all the memory so it works more efficiently, you have to think about this. This is probably the first and only time in our lifetime where we actually will have to redefine everything we're doing. I tend to say there's nothing called going back to work. I call it going forward to work. And so what I would recommend everyone to do is, building on what Anna is saying, is to find 4 buckets of stuff you can sort of work with. And if I put it on the screen right now, I would say, first of all, ask yourself, and this is back to Anna's to-do list. That is to say, what should you eliminate on a daily basis which absolutely make no sense at all. What are some of these things? Because there are a lot of things we do because we're taking routines from the good old days, right? And then we're just not questioning it because we're so much behind and we're so busy, right? And the second one is the park part. That is to say, oh, not sure if I should do it or not. Let me just park for a second. And then we have the improve, and then we have a retain. And this model is really defined around you defragmentating your life, reconfiguring your life. And once you do that, here's what you're going to realize. You mostly will realize that around 45% of the time you use every day on your work stuff falls below the line. That is the area which I call nonsense. And then you have the rest, which is what I call common sense, the opposite. So what I'm saying here is, folks, this is time for us to wake up and realize there's no such thing as going back to work. It's forward to work. So let's just reconfigure our life, right?
Fabulous. And let me pick up very seamlessly from that fantastic grid that you have, because you're very right. You know, when you're talking about reinventing, and I love the fact about defragmenting one's life and really figuring out how do you build it back. It's a great analogy out there and about reimagining business. But both of you all have touched upon this whole thing about eliminating and not doing certain things. Because sometimes about being innovative, about innovation, the whole topic is about what do we stop doing things. I work as a leadership coach, and often you're working with leaders about what can you eliminate, as you correctly said, Martin. I mean, what can you park and move out? So especially on this whole concept about working from home, Anna, back to you. What do you think might be some ideas what people should stop doing so that they can engage better with customers who are also working from home?
I think it really is, it's a personal choice what matters to you. It goes back to that reinvention, as Martin said. You have to really inventory what you want to do and who you want to be and how you want to continue living your life, and start from kind of, writing your own mission statement. I went through a personal journey about writing my own mission statement, what I want to be, and how do I want to continue leading my life. And this is probably the most difficult thing that I've ever done. Writing a PhD dissertation is nothing in comparison to writing your own mission statement. But that gives you the ability to, as Martin said, kind of define and realize who you are as a person and what you want to be and what legacy do you want to leave behind. And as a result of that, you make some steps backwards and you kind of re-engineer your life and kind of do your, what I call time and motion study. If you go back into quality control, you take a look at, you start paying attention. How are you spending your days? What are you doing? I found myself, one of the most ridiculous things that I was doing a lot. I love playing 80s games on my phone. So I would be spending hours playing really, really kind of, brainless games that if I just eliminated that, I could do something really, really productive. So inventory what you're doing, figuring out what your habits are that you don't even know that you have, and then eliminate, as I think Martin's diagram was fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just making me think about a couple of things that I need to eliminate in my life. And I wonder where the audience out there are thinking about what is it that you could eliminate from your life that could create space for you to be able to reinvent and reimagine, that Anna and Martin just talked about. And let's touch upon this whole concept about reimagining businesses. And I'll move to you, Martin, on that one to seek your suggestions around when Anna talks about reimagining businesses. And as we all know, one of the sectors that have been affected mostly are physical businesses, right? So tourism sector, travel sector, theater, retail, pubs, cafes. What's your insight? If they are to reimagine their businesses, what would your insight and advice be to them?
The first advice I have is to look at the world from a different point of view. And I always tend to do that. Anna knows that a lot because we work together a lot on looking at the world through the eyes of a customer, or in the Dorchester Collection's case, through the eyes of a guest. And here's what's happening. And let me just tell you a little bit of a longer story. In the end of the day, common sense is the idea of seeing things as it ought to be done. But it's also very directly related with what I call empathy. And empathy is the ability to place yourself in the shoes of another person and feel what that person is feeling. And this is extraordinarily important for us because we've forgotten about it. empathy is at its all-time low at the moment. So once you put yourself in the shoes of a guest or of a customer, you suddenly feel the pain of the friction points. And in fact, I'm writing a great deal about that in my new book, about the whole experience of hotels, where Justice Collection was part of the transformation process. But let me just tell you a little story, and then I'll come with a solution if that's okay. So just recently, one of the largest pharma companies in the world approached me and they said, hey, we work in the respiratory field and we really are not connecting well enough with our guests. So I said, okay, our patients. So I said, okay, fine, let's try to fix that. So I went into homes of these patients, and I'll never forget it because I had the executives with me and we met up with this young girl, 28 years of age, and she had asthma. And I asked her a question, which later on showed to be pretty profound. The question was, how was it to have asthma as a child? And she started to cry. And she told me this story about how she was teased in school. She was never invited to the parties. And she was seen as a disgrace for human beings because she was embarrassment. She was an embarrassment to bring to parties. And here was sitting thinking about this, and it was really sort of it impacted both me and the executives from the company. So I said to her, listen, do you know what? You feel, it feels like you are back on track. You have a lot of confidence now. She said, yes, I'll tell you what the secret is. And she went down in her bag, in her handbag, and she pulled out a straw. And she said, that's my secret. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, listen, whenever I meet new people now, I always give them a straw and I ask them to breathe through the straw while holding themselves in front of the nose. And when they do that, they realize how it is to have asthma. And immediately there's a transportation happening with empathy. And ever since, I have good friends. Now, I did that exercise with the company and with the executives. I had everyone, having a straw in their mouth, shut down the light. I had this play sound going on through the speakers with a heavy breathing like this. You can imagine that sound. And then I had the whole board breathing through a straw. And after 30 seconds, one of the executives, he spits out the straw and he says to me, Martin, this is absolutely ridiculous. No one can live like this. And I looked him in the eyes and I said, listen, that's how your patients feel every minute of their entire life. And this is the moment where this company suddenly changed the way they're hiring people, changed the way they did R&D, because suddenly empathy became part of it. Now, that leads me to the second part of the question. What do you do during COVID-19? Let's go to Australia for a second. In Melbourne, they had the longest lockdown of any place in the world in Victoria. It was 3 months and it was very severe. There was drones out on the street. Police was guarding everything. You could literally not get out. There was this guy sitting in the home and he said to himself he wanted to decorate the home. And his wife was furious. They were all having fights, whatever, because he could not find the right colors for the wall. They couldn't get hold of paint because he didn't want to buy paint and not see it first. You know the drill. So he came up with a very simple idea. The idea was, why don't we create a little memory stick size thing, a device you can put on the wall, and it will measure exactly the color you have everywhere, on the cushions, on the pillows, on the flowers. It sucks it into this thing here and gives the exact code, send it wirelessly to the local paint store, and they'll send a bucket of paint. And he developed that during COVID-19, and that company became Tint. And Tint is today the largest, fastest growing paint company in Australia. That happened in 2 months. And it happened because of empathy, because you saw or felt a need, an out of balance, which then was translated into a product or a service solution, right? I think you're on mute right now.
Probably one of the statements that have been used the most in the last 1 year. You are on mute. But in a way, your story kind of got smacked me because it has got such a huge learning and motto behind it about empathy and being able to really think about how they could reimagine their businesses. So thank you for that, Martin. In fact, I love the fact that you're sharing anecdotes, because one of the things that I loved about your book is the various stories and anecdotes that you have. And in fact, one that's popping up in my head that I know that we talked about offline when we were discussing about the session, which I'd love to bring about. So one of the topics that I loved about it personally for me is this whole topic about psychological safety that you've touched upon, big themes. You talked about when you actually talk with companies, they want to talk about strategy. but then you end up talking to them about culture and behaviors, and it's really not about strategy, another big ticket item. But then there was this amazing story that you had about the remote control design, and that incident you had about someone who was sitting next to you on the airplane. Why don't you tell the audience, if you don't mind, that story, and what's the learning motto in that for us in today's day?
I definitely will. Listen, I was staying at a hotel in Miami, and I apologize, but as you know, you don't have a hotel in Miami. So I had to stay at another hotel, and it was called Fisher Island Hotel. And the reason why I'm saying it, because they have the most ridiculous remote control on planet Earth. And the remote control was really looking like this. I actually stole one of them. This is how it looks like. I paid for it later on, just so you know. This remote control have 6 sets of arrows going up and down. It have 3 numerical keypads, and it has 2 on buttons. So if you press the first on button, it switches on the television. And the second one, I'm not sure what happens, but super unnatural on type of with superpowers. So anyway, I was fiddling around with this one for 3 or 4 minutes, trying to switch on the television, managed to switch it on, watched Donald Trump for a couple of minutes, wanted to switch off this TV, and then I looked at the remote and there was 2 off buttons. And you know, what was so interesting is when I clicked the first off button, the light in the room was sort of dimming in a nice, moody, sexy way. And when I pressed the second off button, the air conditioning system and the minibar switched off. But I still was sitting with the television on. So anyway, I had to crawl under the minibar, unplug everything from the wall. And that was really the end of my story, except that I actually had to jump on a plane and go to JFK. And that was a couple of months later. By coincidence, guess what? I'm sitting next to a passenger. And the passenger is sort of very chatty. And at some point, I ask him, where are you from? And he says to me, well, you probably don't know my company. And I said, well, try me. He says, well, I'm from company X. And I look at him and I say, I know who you guys are. What the heck went wrong with you guys? And this guy, he looked at me like a deer in the headlight. And it was just like, you know, a bomb had exploded. And I said, and I just pulled out my laptop and I had a photo of this horrible remote control. And I said to him, what are you guys thinking about? And this guy, it was so funny with him because he literally was just shocked about my behavior. He couldn't really understand it. So I said to him, listen, what is the issue? And he was really, really, adamant about that they had a lot of internal issues in his company. And the company issues were that one department wanted to have the real estate, another department wanted to have some other real estate. So TiVo was responsible for one thing and Netflix for another thing. And you had all these different things going on. So he said to me, listen, the issue is that we actually had these conflicts. And then one guy came up with a brilliant idea. And the idea was, why don't we separate everything into zone? So one person is responsible for this zone on the remote control, another one for this zone in the remote control, and everything was neatly split into department. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, you get it, right? And I said, yeah, except one thing. I have no idea about how I switch on.
I think Martin's just frozen for me. Is that for you as well, Anna?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
All right, so we're going to
your television. And this is really very, you can see me?
Sorry, you just frozen for a couple of seconds there.
Yeah, it is very cold. I'm in Switzerland right now, so that's the reason why I'm freezing. You're right. But so what happened here was that this guy is a little bit like a bridge. You have a huge bridge and there's a little crack in the bridge, right? And when you have the crack in the bridge, that is indicating of the entire foundation being broken down. And that is really what we see in companies. Companies today quite often can be evaluated through the small, seemingly insignificant things we can see from the outside. The problem is most companies see themselves from inside out, not outside in. And that's where we have the problem.
Brilliant. Inside out and outside in. In fact, that's almost a story about how people should be reinventing themselves as well, inside out rather than outside in. That's a fantastic story. And I can just imagine that conversation that would have taken place on the airplane, and what a huge learning for the person who probably said it and realized what the mistake was all about. Okay, I've just realized that there are a couple of questions that have been coming on the chat that I just want to take on. So yes, at 7 o'clock, there's going to be a networking. The networking is especially for IOD members. We will share the link at 7 o'clock. So hold on, and we're going to send you that link, which is going to be a Zoom meeting, which is for IOD members, because today's event is dedicated to welcoming all our new joiners who joined the IOD family in the last 6 months. And what is IOD all about? You're going to hear in the next few minutes. I'm just conscious of time. So, Anna, I'm going to ask you a quick sneaky question before I pass it back to Keith and for him to take us to the next section of today's event. But thank you, Martin, for those comments. So, Anna, you're a doctoral candidate at, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Pepperdine Graziadio Business School, but more importantly, you're doing a lot of research on consumer behavior. And I wondered whether you could take a couple of minutes to give us a couple of insights that's coming out in your findings regarding luxury and luxury consumer behavior and how that might change, because that's an interesting one for us.
Yeah, well, I could add on Martin's story because everything that he was talking about, I obviously know Martin very well and love his common sense and the way he uses people and empathy to really learn and teach organizations. So maybe we're switching subject or going in a different direction, but I'll try to connect it somehow. So yes, over the past 3 years, I've been researching what motivates consumption behavior once person reaches a financial independence. And that means that you don't really have to worry about paying your bills and being in this lifetime. So this is an important consumer group, which I believe is very much under-researched, and we need to understand more because they create trends that go mainstream very, very fast. I interviewed 30 extremely accomplished individuals, inclusive of Martin, who was very kind with his time. I analyzed over 1,900 Instagram posts, and I also interviewed individuals that are in small and medium enterprises like yourself, with art galleries, nonprofit organizations, hoteliers, consultancies, management firms, to name just a few. And just like Martin, I want to publish a book one day, but I think I wanted to share 2 findings with you as owners or executives as a small and medium enterprises that might help you kind of reinvent some of your businesses, or at least reframe the way you speak about your business. So there's 2 things that are very, very clear. I'm seeing a huge shift in the consumer behavior, and Martin would probably see that he has seen that probably before, and that is that radical rejection of materialism, almost a disgust of accumulation of possessions. I'm seeing the shift from abundance to quality, and dare I say that radical simplicity. There was one musician turned investor who, by the way, won the Academy Award. He told me that he would rather spend hours researching the best kitchen knife, so he doesn't end up with a remote control that Martin has, in the world than just buying something mediocre just to have it. He doesn't want stuff and clutter. He wants the best possible product design with the utmost care and craftsmanship. Things, stuff, clutter, it's almost becoming a signal of low economic status versus the high economic status that may have been before. So, and with the rise of Amazon and, being able to buy everything on the click of a button, I think this will really widespread very, very soon. How much stuff do we really need to accumulate until we realize it's not about how much we have, but, the quality of the things that we have. And another theme that I'm seeing, again, this is a significant piece of significant piece of advice is there is a big desire for what I call radical consumption. And that is when consumers are shopping for a change. And for businesses, especially if you're a medium size, it's no longer anymore enough to have a fantastic CSR strategy. But more importantly, it's much more important to have a business social conscious. The cancel culture is super scary. You're popular one day and you're completely forgotten the other day for sometimes the events that are beyond control or where have happened when you were young or whatever the case is. And I think the same is happening for the brands. You're popular one day and next day something happens, skeleton in closet, and you're completely canceled. So my advice to you is to kind of reframe your business purposes in a way in which your business contributes to the collective social conscious. Now, let me give you a very short example. Sarah Kaus, she's the founder of Swell Bottle, and Swell Bottle has gone mainstream with yogis, and obviously in California, we're very, very cautious about how we spend our resources. It's basically an alternative aluminum bottle for plastic. But she doesn't consider herself just another water bottle manufacturer. She really reframed the way that she sees herself contributing to that social conscious. So if you look at her Instagram and Twitter account, she describes herself as a person on a mission to reduce the use of single-use of plastic worldwide. Now, I think it's a really different reframing of your business than I'm just, creating your aluminum bottles. So learning from Sarah, I would suggest that you seek to reframe the ways in which you position your business, because I'm sure that many of you have noble causes behind those business intentions. So make sure that's brought to the front, and that you're not limiting your potential by confusing what you do for why you do it.
Perfect. So radical simplicity, love that fact, and also being able to reframe your business and really bringing your purpose to the forefront. Now, I know that there could be loads of conversations that we could continue, but let's take a wee bit of a break and have a conversation about the Institute of Directors, and then we'll come back hopefully for the last 5 minutes to pick up any questions if we have time, or perhaps Martin to perhaps getting a little bit more common sense from you before we end this evening's webinar. So Keith, can I hand back to you for the moment to take us to the next bit of our conversation on the Institute of Directors, and we'll be back with Anna and Martin in a bit. And great to see the conversations happening on the chat.
Thank you very much, Rena, and thank you both as well, Martin and Anna. Thank you very much. I like the nice little plug there, Rena, for some common sense still to come. We'll follow that up. Yes, and as well, thank you for all the chats and comments and questions. We will get to as many as we can. So now, particularly, we wanted to make sure our new members to Central London Branch, London Region and IOD felt welcome. This is an opportunity to try and tell you what you've signed up for, because we don't get very many opportunities, or as many as we would like. So this is hopefully some of the things that we will cover through the next few minutes. And for now, I'm going to hand over to Chair of the London Region, David Stringer-Lamar. David, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Keith, and thank you to Anna and Martin. I've made copious notes on all those comments, and so in this idea of declutter and not going back to work, but going forward to work. So that should be a very, that's a very positive statement there indeed, I think. And Anna, I was almost starting to scribble down the David Stringer-Lamar mission statement, and I was like, oh dear, you are quite right. It's quite complicated, isn't it? I can do it for a company. I can't do it for myself at all. So I'll be working on that one. I like this comments about rejecting materialism, and indeed, Martin, remote controls in hotels. Dearie me, don't even get me started about those things. Super challenging indeed. We'll swap some stories on that. So well done to everybody so far, because obviously we're only part way through today's excellent session. So I'm chairman of the Institute of Directors, London Region. That's my non-paid role, as I will put it. I run a company called Fortis Consulting London, and I'm strategy director at the top menopause clinic in the city of London, where I've been today, Medical Prime. So I'm first of all business, and then the IOD, and the two things all meld together. And it's great to be working with such a terrific team as we have here in this thing known as IOD London Region. So the UK itself is split up into several regions. And of course, I'm going to say it, and I'm allowed to say it, that IOD London Region is the powerhouse region of the IOD family. We're all part of a family. And obviously here we're all competitive because we're business people, directives. Bearing in mind, of course, what Anna said, with a social conscience, because we pay our taxes and do other things as well. And lots of exciting things. A big educational group here as well. Joe Warner leads on, for example. But the IOD is into these regions, as it were. So this is London Region, and so we engage with each other. And of course, within it, there is two strong branches, and the world's biggest branch, because of course we do have 7 overseas branches. The world's biggest branch here is Central London branch. So the IOD itself, just to remind you, has 4 main pillars around corporate governance, of course, because good governance means good companies, and that's good for society, so we don't have lots of problems. Highly skilled directors making good decisions. And then we do a lot of advocacy, and you can imagine myself and Rena, as well as the leaders here in London, are doing a great deal of advocacy on behalf of our members and getting the message out there, what's happening to our business community here in London. And in fact, this afternoon, I was on something called the London COVID Business Board with Sadiq Khan, with the CBI, the City UK, etc., having these discussions and getting information about what we're doing in these, well, challenging seems to be a word that's used a lot. Let me put it, very challenging times, and obviously getting ready for unlocking should it arrive at some stage in the future. No doubt it will. Be nice to know when it will arrive, but we're getting ready. And of course, the other bit we talk about in the regional level, and obviously the branches, is the 4th pillar of the IOD: enterprise, wealth creation, entrepreneurship. That bit that companies like to do, and indeed social purpose vehicles as well, and they generate their money for what they wish to believe in, and make a social difference as well. Now, within this, what do we do at the region? I've mentioned the advocacy that we get involved with, driving forward the business agenda here. And I've got to say, it's not just in London, because of course London is the powerhouse behind the UK PLC as well, so it's engaging way beyond London, and also in very many international environments. And that's what the 2 branches here are very strong at, and certainly Central London branch is running this event here today. And that's why I put the posting in the webinar. Let us know where you're dialing in from, because it's great. We've got these terrific speakers. So we're here, USA, Switzerland, but we've got people, Portugal, I've seen, Italy, etc., the Netherlands here. And it's great, because what these webinars have really allowed us to do, and I think Anna mentioned it earlier, challenge, opportunities. It's given us a great opportunity to further engage for the benefit of ourselves and other stakeholders as well. And part of the region and the branches, what we do is we engage with other stakeholders. It's not all about let's wrap it up. It's not. It's about grow the pie. Let's engage. Let's get these connections going that Keith was also mentioning earlier. So we're very happy to engage with different parties as well. The last thing I'll just mention is, because people often ask me before I hand back to Keith, why am I a member? Why is our company a member? What do we get out of it, as it were? So I'm a fellow of the IOD, so very much in line with what we're going on here at the top end. So I was talking with the Director General yesterday, and feeding back as, of course, the chairman of Iod London Region, but also as a paying member. I pay my subs as well, so I want to get out what I can get out of it, as it were. What do I get out of it? I get an enormous amount of business information. What's going on? We work in loads of different sectors. I find out what's going on. Members kindly share, non-members share, stakeholders share. It's a real rich treasure trove of information. And it's not just here, as I say, in London, it's the UK. It's not just in the UK, it's overseas. And the IOD is a member of the global network of director institutes, which is approaching 400,000 business leaders around the world as well. And the other thing, and particularly I thank Rena for this and her great background in talent, understanding people, driving change, is it's a positive echo chamber, if I can put it that way, in terms of I will send out and say, I've got an idea, and this massive echo come back and go, you've got an idea, oh God, not another one. So it's a great testing area where we can talk to each other and go, what do you think of this one? And it's been really useful for me, because of the 99 great ideas I've had, they've all said no apart from one. And we did that, and that's great. And that's what the community is, particularly very strong here in London, about that sense checking, as I would call it, and also connectivity. Find out what other people are doing. It's not about taking, it's about giving and exchanging information, and therefore making it stronger and bigger for all of us. So you've heard about what the region does. Get on board, get involved, of course, and you've heard about why I'm a member and our company is a member of the IOD for a long time now, and will do until I reach my grave. And if we have an IOD afterlife club, I'll join that as well. Thank you very much. Keith, over to you, sir.
Thank you, David. Are you going to try and chair that branch as well? Rena, you're going to give the audience a little bit more about Central London. So as David said, we have 2 branches in the London region. So this webinar is being organised by the Central London branch. Rena, over to you.
Thank you so much, Keith. And absolutely, what a great way for David to explain why he joined IOD and what IOD can bring to you. I joined IOD actually when I transitioned from my corporate life into becoming an entrepreneur. And as many of you in the audience, and that's a call out for those of you who've joined us already as a member, or those of you who might be considering joining us as a member, is that often what happens is that when you're an entrepreneur, so when I became an entrepreneur, one of the things I realized that I was missing is a team, being part of a community, because when you're an organization or corporation, you always have that. And as David was talking about, you sometimes just need somebody as a sounding board. You need somebody to connect with. And that's the reason why I joined IOD. And I promise you, the first 2 years of being an entrepreneur, I checked out many membership organizations in London, and I did feel that IOD was one that I wanted to be a part of, and especially Central London. So if you've joined IOD, or whether you're considering joining IOD, yeah, another clever pitch out there, or whether you're a Central London member, what is it that you can specifically look out for? Look, we are a group of about 3,500 members. So right away, you know, you have a connection and you're part of a community which is really diverse. So you've got people from all businesses, you've got SME entrepreneurs, micro businesses, solo entrepreneurs, and even directors and board members from large organizations. So you immediately have a connectivity and your network can grow. Of course, you have to make the efforts to connect. And I can see many of you are making the efforts on the chat show with your LinkedIn profile. Way to go. That's the way that we connect at IOD. So Central London gives you access to that large team of people. The second thing, which is very, very unique about the London region, is the special interest groups that we run. And Central London has got some amazing special interest groups, which are communities that are really around certain sectors that can help people who are either working in that sector or interested in doing business in that sector or supporting that sector. And which are those? So we've got one which is on ERP and digital, of course, a big topic. We've got another one on international trade. And we know with Brexit, yeah, the B word happening, international trade is going to grow up. So we've got a special interest group on that. We've got one on music and arts, something that we felt that perhaps business needs to look at and really reinvent and reimagine, as our speakers have been talking about. We've got travel, trade, hospitality, and tourism. That's another special interest group. Then we have got something known as the Education Special Interest Group and the Young Directors Forum. So we have got special interest group that you can really align yourself and get the most out of your IOD membership in Central London. Apart from that, there are some really good benefits. And I'm actually going to ask Jeremy Varlow, who's joined us from the IOD team, to talk a little bit more about those members. And then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to ask our dear friend Martin for a bit of common sense. And Keith?
Rena, thank you very much. David, thank you for also all the information on the IOD. It's, as you've all heard and gathered, that the IOD is led by and directly influenced by our members. I mean, you've heard David, Rena, Keith speak, and everything they do and pushes and directs what we do. So my name's Jeremy. I work for the IOD, and I thought I'd give you a quick reminder of what is available as a member benefits. It's a little bit a whistle-stop tour of the key membership benefits. If you've missed anything or like any more information, please go to www.iod.com. That's my only plug, I promise. So in no particular order, we have a great information advisory service. The members have access to our team of researchers and advisors, where they can at their fingertips. We have commercial databases, answering questions on tax, legal, statistical questions. It's a very popular service, and it's incredible some of the facts they come up with. On the training, on our professional development program, we have a world-recognized courses. These have been brought online over the last 6 months and are being delivered virtually. To starter short courses, the Professional Director Series, 2-hour bite-sized courses, a great insight into what is available. They showcase everything that you can then do up to as a Chartered Director. We are running exams. We are running them online, virtually. Something I hope that does not spread to homeschooling as a parent. I dread having to do exams. We'll let the professionals deal with those, not us at home. Now next, policy team and government influence. We have regular interactions with government departments. I mean, David, I can't beat David for today, but we are regularly through our policy voice team, which is a member-based team. We are in contact with the government, with the opposition, and we have regular member surveys where we gather what you would like, you're worried about, what is influencing what is affecting your business. I mean, last year, of course, was hugely dominated by Brexit and COVID. And then this is fed back straight into government, and we are regularly our policy team is regularly on the radio, and there are some great statistics around the number of hits from our COVID website last year that helped our directors and members answer many questions that they were worried about when it came to what resources were available through government for sort of financially. So that is it's a very underused, and I think this is one thing that we really it's something that we have a great insight into through the IOD. The other end, virtual office, more as how we all work and as businesses change, people are looking for a flexible and workplace solution. And we have a virtual office offer. We've been running it for many years. We have a central London address, telephone and mail handling. We have access to our flagship 116 Pall Mall building. We know that many businesses are letting go of leases and are changing how they want to run their businesses. Many people, staff will not be going in 5 days a week, and this is going to change. So this is another sort of benefit that we have within the building already, and this is only going to grow. Our professional benefits program are a number of key partners, organizations targeted at helping directors, insurance, business sales, cybersecurity. It's aimed at our directors. They're not aimed. They're not the cheapest. They're not they're not found online, but they are tailored for director needs. Hubs. I've already mentioned 116 Pall Mall, which is our fantastic venue in central London, and that provides meeting rooms, meeting spaces for our members. We also have a number of hubs around the country, so our members are welcome to use those if you're having, as I said, for meetings. They also have, some of them have private spaces available for meetings. You can hold events there, and these are all under sort of IOD preferential rates. Sorry, stumbling over that. And the Digital Academy, the last part, which supports our online learning. You, as part of when you do our professional development courses, you become part of the Digital Academy, and you can log all of your professional development work in there. It has access to some of the course materials, and you can log and chart your progress through all our courses. We have a new benefit coming, which the committee members don't know about. This is going to be very exciting. I can't say anything more now, but it's something that members have been asking us for a long time, and that's going to be launched in the next quarter. So it's just we're expanding our benefits program. It's a very exciting time going back out and what we're doing. These events have brought us a fantastic audience. David has already talked about how far we're stretching and how sort of the London base is growing, and there's more we can do to offer you, and to offer our members, and what you gain from being part of the membership. That's enough from me. It's enough of the sales pitch. Any questions, please pop them in the chat, and if not, visit, as I said, iod.com. I will hand you back to Keith. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jeremy. And yes, I agree with David's comment in the chat. It's a big tease.
Yeah.
So watch this space. We don't know what's coming next. I'm sure it'll be amazing, as always. So, as Reina suggested, Martin, tell us a little bit about common sense. What can you tell us?
Oh my God, do you need
And
more
yes.
common sense in this world? Are we complete perfect, I think, at the moment, with the whole world crashing in front of our eyes, right? Well, listen, common sense are things as they are, seeing things as they are and doing things as they ought to be done. Or as I tend to say, to treat customers and consumers and employees as they themselves would expect to be treated. And I do think we have a serious problem right now. And here's the issue. Let me just tell you a story. Just recently, I was sitting on a plane going from Copenhagen to Zurich in Switzerland. And as I was sitting in the seat, this voice came on the speaker. It said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board on Scandinavian Airlines. I regret to inform you that all cabin service has been completely suspended on the entire flight. And the lavatories in front of the plane have been blocked. They are now only accessible for the cabin crew, but you have one lavatory in the back for the rest of your passengers. All because of COVID-19. Now here we were, 132 passengers, which now had to walk down the aisle, passing by every row, and then we had to be in a line, I don't know, as long as TSA security, while I was breathing in this freshly brewed smell of toilet now mixed up with a nice aroma of COVID-19, right? And not only that, I then had to fill out a form. This is a new type of entertainment program on board on planes. In the old days, you had these forms you had to fill out when you go into a new country. Now they have an extension. It's a merchandise program they're running, which means that you can now entertain yourself with filling out this form. And the first question in the form was, have you been in close proximity with anyone over the last 12 hours? And the only thing I just had to do was to look at the person next to me and basically say, what's your name and address, right? And the second thing which happened was, it said, and this is crazy, we have these iPhones and whatever, so we don't use pens anymore. So you had to fill out this form and there's no pen. So a clever guy, he says on row 1, can I borrow a pen? So he borrows a pen from the purser, and the whole pen is now walking through the entire plane. It ends up with me. I'm passenger 111. And the second question, and listen to this is crazy. The question was, have you touched anything anyone has touched over the last 12 hours? And the only thing I had to do was to tick yes again, right? This is lack of common sense. And that's the world we are in right now. And I fundamentally believe that COVID-19 has become a universal blanket excuse for anything you want to do. Do I believe in COVID-19? Yes. Do I believe in wearing masks? Yes. That's not the issue. The issue is used as a really neat way of cutting cost and reducing service. So the reason why I wrote this book is really to bring back common sense, because I do think we are at an all-time low. And I do think as we're going forward to work, this is the moment for us to redefine all that red tape and bureaucracy and BS going on in the organization. So that's the reason why I wrote the book. That's the comment I have around the Ministry of Common Sense, which, by the way, just so you know, exists. In fact, we set up ministries of common sense in banks, Standard Chartered Bank. They were the first to set up a real ministry inside in London, which have cleaned up and removed one stupidity at a time. But we also set it up across the world, and it's been an extraordinary success. And for me, an amazing journey and way of learning, right?
It's amazing that we have to do such things these days. Martin has been extremely generous, and through the link for this event on the IOD website, you will find a 50% off, 50% discount off the ebook version of Ministry of Common Sense. Thank you, Martin. And also a masterclass as well if you've purchased the ebook.
Yeah, let me just say something about this masterclass, because this is pretty amazing. We teamed up with Marshall Goldsmith, which is the #1 coach in the world. And we have something called the OFF Methods. That is where we are a group of 20 top CEOs, thought leaders, and coaches in the world. And it's a beautiful production of thousands of hours of quality content. And of course, I have my whole segment on there as well about the whole topic of empathy. So check it out. It's free of charge for a whole month. If you buy the book, 50% off. I mean, I sound like a real bad salesperson now. The next thing I have to say is there's a free CD with that. I had to regret there is no free CD. It's just a book and an education program, right?
It's worth the sales pitch. It's absolutely worth it. Don't worry. Rena, over to you.
Right. Thank you. So I'm very conscious we got a minute more. And before I use the next couple of slides just to conclude this evening, can I just say a very warm and respectful thank you to Anna and Martin for joining us today. It's been absolutely a delight. I know that we could have spoken more with you, but really appreciate your time and for being with us. And I'm sure we're going to stay connected, and this is going to be a journey that we're going to continue. And I might just tell the audience that we might come back with these two wonderful people during the year. So stay connected with us. We would not have time for Q&As right now, but let me just tell you that there are more events like this. So another thing that Central London does, as well as the City of London, which is the other branch in the London region, we set up webinars which are free for members and non-members. So here are some amazing ones that are set up. You're getting a flavor of it. There's something happening almost every week. And in fact, the next two ones that are coming up are popping up on the slide with you. An amazing interview with Rohan Silva, founder and CEO of Second Home. A great conversation, and going back to Anna's point about purpose. So listen into that conversation on 24th of January, and managing your business and reputation through a crisis. How do you do that? 28th of January. So join us for those events. And now let me just come back to the networking, which is something which is special for IOD members. You can see on the slide in front of you a link. Please copy that link and join us. So copy that link and join us. We will be closing this webinar and popping back again on that Zoom link. And in fact, Keith, if it's possible, if someone can just copy paste it on the chat as well, that'd be great, so that people have it available. We'll have this open for another 15 seconds because it's 1 minute past 7 o'clock, and we promise that we will close on time. So thank you very much for joining us. The audience, we've just been watching those chat comments of yours. Please do stay connected. And may I just say, thank you for being you, and thank you for doing what you do in your lives. It is just such a difficult time. And I'm sure that today's conversation has helped you recognize that you already have a lot of common sense in you. So keep playing to your common sense as you reimagine, reinvent, eliminate some of those things that need to come out of your life, and make this world and your life, as well as the ones that are close to you, a much more happier and a safer one. Stay safe, stay connected. Please do copy that link on the chat that is available to you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Anna. And thank you for that wonderful team that has been supporting us. Please join us for the networking. We'll be closing this in the next 15 seconds. So countdown, 15, 14, 13. Thank you, Martin, for those amazing insight, common sense registered in my head. 11, 10, 9. Anna, absolute pleasure to have had you with us. Thank you very much for joining. 9, 8, 7, 6. For those of you who haven't joined IOD, think about it. It's a pretty neat place and great conversations to be a part of. So the link is, I can see there's a link in question mark. If you can pop back that slide for the last 5 seconds. And Keith, do we have it on the chat as well?
It is in the chat. I keep posting, it's there.
Great, this chat is there, and it's coming from Alex, the question, so the chat is there. And it's just gone to, the chat the link has gone just to the panelists. So I am going to copy it now and send it to the world.
All right, there we go. There we go.
Now, there. You've got
Twice.
Keith and me who's both posted it. So thank you everyone for joining us. Goodbye, Martin. Goodbye, Anna, David, Jeremy,
bye.
Keith. Bye. Take care. Martin will stay connected, I'm sure. Thank you everyone for joining us. And for those of you joining us in the Zoom, see you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll close it now and join you on the other side. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.